Hey, that's right. We're here. We're here. We got it. Anyway, it's a happy Friday. Am I right? Am I right? Come on. Come on. Come on. Just for once. Just for once. Just for once. Anyway, welcome. It's a Friday. I know we got a couple people here, so we'll just get into it as soon as my cursor shows up. As soon as my cursor shows up. You're kidding me. Come on. There we go. All right, yeah. So sorry about the glitch there, but we'll just get into it. What's up, chat? Uh, Glad you're here. And today we're talking about robots, right? And on the thumbnail, I had Meet the New Boss. Right? Everybody's waiting for the robot revolution to show up like a guest star, walking in on two legs, maybe waving and asking where their batteries are, right? That's the fantasy that we think about. But the reality is the robot revolution is already here. It doesn't look like a person. It looks like productivity. It looks like warehouse machines moving more boxes before a whole crew of human beings can move in an entire shift. Factory robots don't blink, they don't scroll, they don't call in sick. They certainly don't need a motivational podcast. We get dazzled by these humanoid demos that we see. A robot does a backflip and the internet's like, well, humanity had a good run. Meanwhile, a boring robot on wheels replaces an entire workflow and nobody notices because it doesn't have abs. Humanoid robots are engineering on hard mode. Balance, fingers, stairs, chaos, physics, right? That's boss level. The industry starts on level 1. Do one task perfectly, forever. Usefulness beats resemblance, always. The first real robot, right? It's not human shaped, it's task shaped, quiet, narrow, relentless. The demo is just a costume. The spreadsheet is the truth. The machines aren't coming to look like you. They're coming to outperform you. My name's Tom Coffey. This is the Coffee Nuance Show. It's your favorite streaming show that you just happen to be watching live right now. Flame on. That is not it. Here we go. There we go. That's what I wanted. We'll turn the ticker off. We don't need that. What's up, chat? So let's look at the slide deck. Let's look. What has What's Tom put together for today? So this is what people expect the robot revolution to look like, right? You know, you got this human-shaped, assume that it's smart. It's got visual resemblance. You look at that and you're like, oh, I bet that could do a lot of stuff. Audio is really quiet. Huh. How about now? Check your... is the microphone okay? Let me know if the microphone is okay. So... All right. So the media and they just go out and you see this all the time. It's like, oh, here's the latest humanoid robot and humanoid, this dog robot or whatever. And that's really impressive. But it's these fancy demos that kind of reinforce this whole thing of what robots are. We don't imagine better forklifts when we think about robots, right? What we imagine is like having a robot roommate or something, a robot butler, right? But those aren't the robots that are coming from. Mike is okay. Okay, well we'll sort out the that other audio later. Let's see. Turn that up. Okay, cool. Thanks for the feedback on that, Stephen. Appreciate it. So, you think you see these robots and they're doing backflips, but in reality, we're not seeing factory robots because nobody shares that crap, right? Nobody shares it. So, what gets attention is what we focus on. But here's what the robot revolution actually looks like, okay? And it's already replacing things right now. These are specialized robots, and they're doing specialized things: warehouses, factories, logistics, surgery, yeah, architecture, agriculture, right? I'm sure we're not going to need to bring in people from South America to pick fruit, not for very much longer, because the robots that are going to go out and pick the fruit are actually going to be more efficient. They can do it 24 hours a day, right? They don't need the light to be able to pick the fruit, and they're probably going to be more efficient. Probably it's going to be cheaper too, eventually. That's what we're going to get to. But those robots that are out picking fruit, they're not going to, they're not going to be wearing a sombrero, right? They're not going to have walking around like a humanoid robot. They'll be a very specialized robot to get the job done. So the most impactful robots are totally invisible to the public, right? Robots changing the economy, they don't look like people. They just look like equipment, right? Okay. So here's a couple points here about humanoid robots and why this is so hard, right? Legs are a lot harder to make than wheels, right? Wheels are easy, right? We got wheels on our luggage, right? Wheels are easy. Legs that move, that's hard. Hands, that's a whole lot more difficult than just some gripper, okay? Balance and dexterity, and then you got safety, like that's all compounding. And these kinds of robots have a real energy drain problem. Like maybe you could get a humanoid-looking robot to go around, but for how much energy could it actually hold? Or would it be constantly running to the corner to recharge itself, right? And the thing is that physics are pretty unpredictable. And so to do everything with a humanoid robot, there's just like so many variables. It's really, really hard. Think of it this way, okay? You finally figured out the bicycle, right? You're able to put the chain on the bicycle, right? And you got all the pieces and it's all working right. And now you can ride the bike. Now go build a fighter jet, right? That's the leap from just like a simple one-task robot to, these kind of humanoid robots. So demo environments are totally controlled. We even saw this with Tesla. We saw these like robots that were out there interacting with people. Turns out they were people wearing costumes. The Amazon store, where supposedly it was tracking people and what they put in the cart. Turns out they had a whole bunch of cameras and they were hiring people in Southeast Asia to track what people put in their cart. The demonstration of technology is that it's just that. It's a performance, right? What we really need to see is a working system. So demos, they can be teleoperated, right? They could have somebody in the background performing it. But it's repeatability that really proves something. So, what works in a lab doesn't necessarily mean that it will work out in the field, out in real life. So a demo proves if it's possible, but deployment proves that it has value. All right. So, and like a real robot, when you think about it, it's just going to be, you're just going to track it, right? It's going to see what's the output per hour, what's the cost per task, uptime, error rate, how often a human had to go fix something on it. These are all the metrics that decide whether companies are going to adapt them or not, or, when will they? Investors, they look at efficiency and they don't look at choreography, right? So like a big spectacle, that's what gets the headlines, but it's throughput. That's what gets the funding to happen. So here's the last points I want to get to on this. It's how do we tie the expectation and reality together, right? The first wave is what we have, task robots, right? These are just automatic robots that do one thing. Humanoids, that'll be later. That's going to be slower, and it's going to be very niche at first. But, we've seen Elon really ramp things up with that and stop producing the Tesla cars because they're going all in on the humanoid robots, right? But tasks get replaced before jobs get replaced. So you got a job, there's some robot that can do one thing of the job. Well, you let the robot do that one thing. Your job's still safe for today, right? It's when they can do enough tasks that they don't need you anymore. So, yeah, the final note here is the machines aren't coming to look like you. They're coming to outperform you. And that's the main thing I wanted to talk about today. But we've got a great show. We've got a lot of news to get to. So let's get to that news. This here and here. Oh, I should probably be on the screen. There I am. Oh, I don't think I like that. Let's. It's still a work in process, people. It is still a work in process. Oh, you know what? Let's just get rid of the chyrons. We don't need those. Okay. I love this headline. Dystopic as F. This website lets AI bots rent humans. What? Speaking of robots. So in this article, it discusses the evolving role of robots in our society. But here's the crazy thing. Someone has made, I can pull it up here, rentahuman.ai. Right? So we can go over here to rentahuman.ai, and this is set up so people that are using Claudebot or OpenClaw, this kind of home personal automation running on a Mac Mini. I'm trying to do that too. You could give it an account, and if it needed a human being to do something, you could just have your AI assistant hire a robot or hire a real person, because maybe there's something that you need a person to do in real life. So someone set up rentahuman.ai so the AI assistant can rent a human being to do a task that needs to be done in real life. That is just that's just crazy. Think of it as like a TaskRabbit app, but you're getting hired by an AI assistant, which is crazy because we think we get the AI assistant to do stuff we don't want to do, and then the AI assistant has to get a person to do the things that it can't. I don't know. There's something real ironic about that. And like my take on this is, as we integrate robots into our lives, it's really redefining what it means to be a human in the world, right? Where machines can handle our jobs, but maybe not all our jobs. And so we'll be doing the things that the AI assistant can't do. Uh, really, really crazy. Yeah, if here's another thought here is if the AI bots can rent humans, we're just not witnessing a new gig economy. We're on the edge of redefining what human worth is like. That's the crazy thing, that people are allowing themselves to be commodified, which is kind of what the gig economy is, right? But yeah, human beings you can now lease your skills directly, not to other humans, but to actual AI assistants, because they might want to hire you to do something that they can't do yet. Just crazy, crazy stuff. But that is that article. Next, big if true. Will anything happen? Well, probably not. Here we are. This is on Modernity News. Is an investigation revealed that Ilhan Omar's winery, co-owned by her husband, is allegedly a shell company used for money laundering. Despite reporting a dramatic revenue increase from $15,000 in 2024 to $5 million in 2025, the winery lacks a business license, not located at the listed address, and this listed address hosts over 40 legitimate wineries. That's kind of odd. Well, there's a lot of scrutiny on Omar, her finances. Reportedly, they've gone from $6 million and they're up to between $6 and $30 million. Is anything going to happen? Is anything going to happen? I don't think so. It's one of these things that like, oh, this is it. Like the shoe is falling. Like it's actually going to happen. Something will happen. No, these things never seem to happen. I did a fact check on her marrying her brother, I don't know, 6 years ago or something. And I think I did a pretty good job proving it. I was doing that before you saw it elsewhere. Has anything come of that? All of the immigration fraud, marriage fraud? No. She's still collecting a congressional paycheck. Nothing's come of that. I doubt anything will come of this with this fake winery that they were doing. But, I don't know. Weird things happen, so we'll just have to see about that. What do we have next here? I got to turn my phone off when I start the show. Nobody calls me except for every day it's a random business opportunity for me. They can help me get a loan. And every day it's from a different state and a different number with the exact same AI person calling me. I'm on the do not call list, but scammers don't seem to follow that. So, yeah. Anyway, what do we have here on the screen? Billions in Chinese investment to flee Panama. Beijing livid over canal port decision. Well, what is going on here? I think you should be updated on this. Panama's Supreme Court has voided a crucial contract for Chinese-operated ports at the Panama Canal. Beijing is pretty pissed about it. This is seen as a win for the U.S. And it highlights how Panama has to hold these things in balance between China and the U.S. and because right now there's billions of dollars in Chinese investment that are kind of not really sure what's gonna happen to it. I've talked about it before, but the Donroe Doctrine, right? Donald Trump being deciding that our country should be much more invested in this hemisphere. It's probably a sign of that. Probably a sign of that. Let's see. But I think so. Here's my thought on it. You know, by nullifying this Chinese port deal, Panama is like playing with fire. It really is, because anytime billions are at stake, who knows what's going to happen. China's pretty ticked about it. I know the Trump administration is pretty pleased about it. But if they play this right, if Panama is able to play this right, perhaps they can move from just being a pawn to, I don't know, a rook in the global chess game. Or will they just go back to being a pawn and just do exactly what Trump tells them to do? Well, you know, we'll see what happens, but I think this is pretty big news for things that are happening in our own hemisphere. Here's an update. Georgia's Fulton County sues for return of the 2020 election documents seized by the FBI. Okay. So, you know, what else do you expect them to do, right? They're looking bad. The FBI came in, took all these documents that may show some improprieties, may show some shenanigans. We don't know. We'll just have to see. And so, you know, Georgia's sitting there. Are we going to take this? No, we gotta fight back. You know, they got to have something to tell their people. So the county claims the FBI took hundreds of boxes of ballots and key election materials under a search warrant. And they're saying, oh, see, Trump is planning on cheating. Doesn't really follow. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You know, I did a thing on this. Tulsi was down there overseeing it because it's important. Is Fulton County going to win on this? No, but they're just putting on a show. You know, it is. I think it's an attempt to kind of redefine federal elections and bring these things up. Will a lot of blue states do this and say, no, we are in charge of our elections and you have no right to check any of it out? Probably. I think we're going to see this kind of going nationwide. I'm sure it's already taking place in Oregon, that Oregon politicians are whining about having any scrutiny whatsoever on their voting system. So I'm glad that this is working itself out. Let's get it worked out in February, right? Let's not wait until after the election to look into these things. So it's probably a good thing that this is happening today. Let's see. This story. Oh, this is kind of crazy. And again, I'm still looking for what we can call. What do we call a video that just auto plays that has nothing to do with the story that we're reading? I still need a good name for that. So if you've got a good name for this, like here we are at the Hill, we're talking about domestic partners increasingly likely to use poison to harm or kill their partners. This is a warning for everyone. And we've got a video about Hakeem Jeffries, I don't know, whining about ICE or something. Or having a concern about ICE, right? So the video has nothing to do with the story. We need a name for videos like that they stick on pages. But let's get to this story. Department of Homeland Security's issued a warning regarding what they consider a disturbing trend, and I would too, And that's an increase in domestic partners using poison, like cyanide, to harm or kill each other. Between 2014 and 2025, there have been 17 documented cases, that doesn't sound like too many, of such incidents with at least 11 fatalities. And this is a rise. Well, I mean, if it went from 15 to 17, that's not much of a big rise. If it went from 2 to 17, I guess that's a big rise. But over a decade, 17 doesn't seem like, seems a bit like an outlier. But I don't know. I guess it's a thing to bring up. Just saying something is a rise, well, it's gone up to 17 people in a decade. I don't know that that's a huge trend, but yeah. They say love is poison. I didn't think they meant it literally. Ba-dum-bum. Yeah, you know what you also could do is you could just get a divorce, right? You don't have to kill them. I don't know. This seems to be just something very, very minor, but, the news is making it into a bigger deal than it is. Don't kill your partner. I don't know. I don't have much else to say about that. Don't have much else to say about that, but bad stuff's happening left and right. So at least, there's a story there. Oh no. The EEOC, that's the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, is pursuing an investigation into Nike for alleged racial discrimination against white employees, claiming the company's diversity programs may have led to systemic bias. Yeah. Nike World Headquarters is in the suburbs of Portland, out in Beaverton. I would say that, just on my own observation, I would say there's definitely some bias at who Nike hires. I probably know at least a dozen. I've met dozens of people that work at Nike. I don't know a single white man that works at Nike. Now, I don't know what that says about who I run into and who that's just what's it called? That's just my own personal experience. But this report does not shock me in the least. Maybe they could just change their slogan to just discriminate it. Or instead of just do it, just don't do that. Right now. Kidding. Is this going to change anything? Probably not. Is this going to be a catalyst for companies to rethink DEI? Probably not. Is this going to change anything? Maybe the optics of it. Maybe they'll be less overtly biased. But I don't think I see it changing much. I think the diversity, especially in big corporate companies, they're not going to change until they're forced to, and I don't think this is forcing them to. So I don't expect a whole lot of changes to happen at Nike with this, but again, we'll just have to see. But there is some change coming, and this is kind of big-ish news. The Democratic Republic of Congo, Namibia, and Angola have agreed to cooperate with the UK on the return of migrants following threats of visa penalties from the British government. So, as you know, there have been a lot of issues with African migrants in the UK. kind of making the UK unrecognizable. And the UK is actually doing a little tiny something in sending back a couple of people. Well, at least the pendulum is coming back ever so slightly. So we'll just have to see if this is, more to come or not. Is this going to be a domino effect, or is this just a little tiny something? I don't know. Again, just have to see. That should be a meme, right? There should be a meme for like, yeah, we'll just have to see. Oh, that'll be interesting. It's so cliche, and yet I find myself repeating it all day long. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Which means, I don't know what's going to happen. Here we go. The screening machine. Now, this article is about screening for cancers and whatnot. But some in it is about the increase in reliance on technology in political campaigns, right? So what they're doing is they're using AI to reshape how they reach out to voters. Now, I actually did some work in voter outreach. In fact, I was a manager in one of the largest voter things, I think, in the history of the world. Might have even been funded by Soros. Back when I didn't know anything. During the Kerry campaign. And one thing I did is I coordinated a bunch of buses that we had employees that were going out and knocking on doors and making sure that people had turned in their ballots, because here in Oregon we have vote by mail. And if not, they were collecting the ballots to turn in for them. In hindsight, this seems very... a lot of it seems shady. But you can imagine that now with AI, you could really figure out how are we going to target people for our political campaign. So just a couple things. I remember way back in the 90s, a friend of mine ran political campaigns in Albuquerque when I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he had a little point system set up, and it was based on for all the people in the district. And so if he had a candidate who was running, let's say in District 5, right, so just part of the city, he had all the voting records, and they had a spreadsheet on this to know, and he had a point system that he had made his own algorithm, his own system. And so if you were a person, depending on your age, depending on how many times you have voted in past elections, did you vote in the general or did you vote in the primary? Did you vote in both? He would take all of this information and gave points to each voter in the district. And depending on the score that they had, that would determine the voter outreach that they would do for that voter. So, for example, if there was some elderly woman who voted in the last 8 elections every single time, she might get not only a door knocker, but a personal visit to her house. You know, someone might go out and knock on the door and ask her about the candidate, tell her about the candidate, give her a flyer, etc. Some people that had a medium score, they might just get a door knocker, you know, just a flyer or a little cutout that was, you know, put on the doorknob, but not a personal visit. And some people, even if they were registered to vote, if they didn't have a high enough score, they didn't even get any literature whatsoever. And at the time, I was like, hey, John, I looked into this. I said, just based on my score, you wouldn't even come to my You wouldn't even put a flyer on my door. And he said, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you haven't proven that you've voted enough, and we've calculated this out. Resources are tight. We can only do so much. And so, yeah, you don't even get a flyer. But I think that's one of the things that's coming to AI in political campaigns. They can data mine you and figure out exactly what they should do to reach you. You know, they might find out, you know, there's all kinds of different things, but maybe they find out what you're into, and maybe maybe the flyer that comes to your house is different than the flyer that comes to someone else's. They can use AI for all of this. So I think this is a real interesting time. Interesting time. Let's see. What is the next one? This should come as a shock to nobody, but it's true. It's true. There's a new analysis that highlights the strong correlation between crime rates and affordability. And it suggests that rising crime costs society far more than just the financial losses. So this article argues that unsafe neighborhoods deter investment, they reduce property value, and ultimately burden the taxpayer. This should just be titled "No Duh," right? This is things that we totally get. But here we have the City Journal has actually put out a nice article on it that breaks it down for all the dummies that don't understand. And by the dummies, I mean every single politician running anything in Portland. Because we've got the homeless everywhere, the crime is everywhere, and they think that by somehow having tens of thousands of people on the streets, that it's not going to affect everything. Well, it does. It affects everything. Rising crime costs society a lot more than just what the crime was. So, interesting article here from City Journal. Yeah, crime is bad when the neighborhood watch turns into neighborhood watch out. Okay. Oh my. So this is a fun story we got here. Big on X yesterday. Kamala HQ is back, and Kamala HQ was, of course, that was her Twitter account for the last campaign, full of a lot of cringe. But it's back. It's now headquarters. It's now called headquarters. It's funny, I think it's like headquarters _86 or something like that. They're complaining that Elon won't just give them at headquarters. It's like, well, welcome to 2026. Try to brand. It's hard to do, right? But they've relaunched her account. It's got 1 million followers on X, 5 million on TikTok, and they relaunched it with Kamala recording, just saying, "Oh, we're back, and this is what we're going to do." And it was recorded on a phone in a hallway in an office with like zero production. So for this big relaunch, didn't really impress that much. But it just kind of looks like a desperate attempt to reclaim some relevance. We'll see. I look forward to any meme that Headquarters HQ comes up with that's any good. So we'll be watching that. It's funny because this is aimed at Gen Z, right? It's aimed at the youth, and Kamala doesn't seem I don't know. I think Malice called her America's wine mom. Like doesn't really seem that connected with the youth anyway. But yeah, well, let's see in the next week what memes Headquarters HQ comes up with. I look forward to that. All right, what else we got? Oh, this is big. This is big news. Yeah, AI, weight loss drugs, and celebrities galore headlining Super Bowl commercials. Well, it sounds like Super Bowl commercials are back. Years ago, I know kids would not believe this, but years ago, we actually looked forward to the Super Bowl commercials. That was a big deal. We actually watched them because they put a lot of money and effort into them. In recent years, they've sucked. They have not been interesting at all. But the media is back to hype it up again this year. They're saying that the influence of AI on marketing is going to have implications. And so, what big ads are we going to see from the Super Bowl this Sunday? They're predicting maybe a lot of weight loss, drugs, celebrity endorsements. Who knows what it's going to be? Who knows what it's going to be? I hope. Well, I don't know. It's going to be funny to see what company does some AI made app or AI produced commercial, because if they do, they're just saying that they don't care about humans making commercials anymore. And it should there could be some backlash, but probably not. There's not going to be backlash because there never is. I think one of the things that's important in a commercial, especially if you're trying to bring in celebrities, to have a real connection, though, when you're using a celebrity, you need an authentic celebrity, or a celebrity that can really act authentic, act like a really authentic person, because I think that would be the real thing. And otherwise, yeah, well, we'll find out Sunday. We'll find out if there were any good commercials or not. Now, this just cracks me up. Not that I really care about the whole Epstein thing, but the World Economic Forum is investigating its CEO over Epstein ties. Boris Brandt is getting a lot of scrutiny. He's the CEO of the WEF for his connections to Jeffrey Epstein. And this was in the latest DOJ document dump. Exposed extensive ties between Epstein and lots of figures worldwide, including Brende. If I'm saying that name right, probably not. Does this make you trust the WEF any less? No, because nobody trusts them anyway, right? In fact, this is kind of what you would assume, right? If you were to ask me or ask you, hey, what do you think we're going to find in the Epstein files? Do you think they'll find any ties to the World Economic Forum? And I would of course, bet on absolutely. And it would probably be favored, 9-1, that would be the case. Why did the CEO cross the road? To distance himself from Jeffrey Epstein. Man. So, is this going to be like the catalyst for more transparency? No. Is this investigation going to, is this guy going to lose his position? I don't think so. Because who at the WEF is going to kick somebody out for having ties to Epstein, right? They'd probably all have to be kicked out, right? So, Anyway, that's what I got. But we got one last. We got some good news. So let's get to the good news.
I could use good news to pull me through.
Oh, believe it. Believe it. Now, we actually have a video that is actually has something to do with the article. I watched this video earlier. But it's Trump. He's launched Trump RX. It's an online platform aimed at providing direct-to-consumer access to prescription medication, discounted prices. Right? He says this initiative is a groundbreaking step in healthcare reform, and it's offering a selection of 43 drugs for various conditions. And it is mainly for people that don't have insurance for medicines. We got fire trucks rolling by. I'm not sure what that's about, but but yeah, I mean, what's next? Is Trump gonna? So as far as I know, they don't have Ozempic on the Trump RX, right? But maybe soon. Maybe soon. I think that this is a really good. I was thinking about like why is Trump doing this, or what are the benefits of this? Obviously, it's a benefit if you kind of force the drug companies to offer drugs cheaper to Americans. What was happening is they were selling these drugs to people all over the world for cheaper than they were selling it to Americans. And so a lot of people, what they were doing with their for their drugs, they were ordering it and they were getting it sent in from Canada. And the Canadian drug that they were getting was, it could have been made in the USA, packaged, sent to Canada, and then the American buys the Canadian drug and has it sent back to the U.S. because that was actually cheaper than getting it here in the U.S. So Trump saw that, didn't think that that was the best, didn't like that Americans were cheated, and he stepped in to do something about it. So I think that's great. This is a good start. But I also think this is a real strategic play to kind of rally the base. Also to give a nod to the Maha people in the coalition that's supporting Trump, that they're actually doing something for healthcare affordability. Affordability seems to be like the buzzword of the year. And Trump giving access to discounted medicines is really good for the thought of affordability. Yeah, and it's also kind of shocking that the Democrats never wanted to do something like that, right? Or the Republicans didn't either, right? Nobody wanted to do that before. Trump came in and did it. Trump RX, something to check out if you don't have insurance for your medicine. Might be something to check out. Oh, apparently, I read you can get Ozempic there. Huh. How about that? Oh, no, maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, it says the savings are between 33 and 93% off the list price of the drugs. So I like the sound of that, and that should make things more affordable. That is some good news, and I'm all pro good news. So anyway, those are the stories that I have prepared today to talk about. Stick around for the after show. I'll go through your comments, see what's up. Say hi to the people in chat. I'll be back on Monday. Still trying to decide if this is the best time of day to do the show. But still some more things to think about. Anyway, stick around for the after show. I will see you then. Peace. Nope, that's not it. There we go. There we go. And I don't know why I'm so red. I don't know why I'm so red. So something else to work on. Something else to work on. Mike is okay. All right. Robot surgery is less precise than you'd think. Well, surgery is a lot less precise than any of us think. That's for sure. I got RK done in 91, I think. And that's where they cut your corneas. And when I went in to have it done, I just laid down on the bench and the doctor put his arm, like his forearm, on my forehead. And he just had a scalpel and then just went in and did the cutting and just said, "Don't move." Yeah. So I think, I don't know, robots might be a little more precise than that. We'll see. Doc says Omar was willing to marry her brother, so was anyone surprised? I'm not surprised. And again, she didn't marry her brother just for some weird reason. She married a brother to get him citizenship, right? So it's kind of a nice thing for a sister to do for her brother. I doubt either of my sisters would do something like that for me. So I think, that does show that she's, a little kind. Doc says, I remember your Omar video, and you're right, no significant political price. Yeah, no, she hasn't had any political price for all the things that she's done. A lot of things that just look outright illegal. But, nothing's really happened with that. Yeah, DEI introduces bias. Go figure. I know. Doc says, I suspect many poisonings are explained as accidental. And probably they are. Probably they are. This is not some wave that's taking over the world, though. This is just something short. And lastly here, Doc says, just before he died, Scott Adams theorized that the massive U.S. deficit is primarily the result of massive government fraud. Like the Minnesota Somali fraud added up in all 50 states. A lot of fraud for the for our national debt, but probably a lot of it could be traced back to the Fed itself, which some think is a fraud. Anyway, that's something to think about for the weekend. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you all have an awesome weekend. I'll be back on Monday. We'll see if we can work the show and get the show a little bit even better than it already is. But hope you have a great weekend. Until then, peace.